there, Bailey Catrona here with Soul Property Advisors, and I have Lily Weiss with Living Room Realty in Portland, Oregon with me. We're super excited to share with you some key things to consider if you're exploring a move to either Portland, Oregon, or Santa Cruz, California. Come learn a little bit how they're both similar, but also very different in a lot of ways. So, before we get into it, Lily, tell me a bit about yourself. When did you start selling homes in Oregon, and what is your specialty?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me on. So I started selling homes. Actually, I'm starting to say now I'm like closer to 7 years. You get to that point, you're like 6 years, you're like, actually, I'm getting close to 7. So exciting stuff there. I moved up to Oregon about 10 plus years ago. I went to University of Oregon, went abroad for a year, moved to Portland, which is a, very typical track. I'm originally from Berkeley, California, so I know Santa Cruz very, very well. Spent tons of summers there. I really specialize helping people that are first-time home buyers. Naturally, I started in the business when I was 23, I believe.
Okay.
So, kind of natural fit is you're going to work with those people that are in that similar place in life.
Totally.
Love working with them. I work with a lot of relocation buyers as well, because coming from California myself, I know what it's like to make that move. I know a lot of the motivation for people to make that move, which we'll talk about a lot here. And then I also obviously like working with our sellers as well. But yeah, on the buyer side, that's kind of typically who I work with.
Awesome. Really get down into it on like a high level. Everyone always immediately goes towards lifestyles, especially when you're in two different coastal zones here. So Santa Cruz is known for like that coastal laid back vibe. There's lots of surfing, there's hiking trails everywhere. We get over 300 days of sunshine a year. How does that compare to Portland?
I think it's the chill vibe in a different place.
Yeah.
We are, of the larger West Coast cities, we are one of the smallest and the most affordable, we like to say. We are the most affordable of the big cities, but it doesn't feel like a giant city, and it isn't one. You can pop around town typically in 15 to 30 minutes, even with traffic. Tons of hiking. We have a giant park in the middle of the city called Forest Park that spans the two sides. We have a million others right in my, I'm like 15 minutes walking distance to Tabor, which is this big mountainous park. It's beautiful. We have a river right through the city. We have a river at the top, spanning between us and Washington, which also then gives you the gorge, which is like the most amazing, beautiful place. You can be there in 15, 20 minutes. Whenever I go, I'm like, why am I not here more? It's like the most beautiful, stunning, world-renowned place you can ever go to.
Okay.
And yeah, in terms of vibe, again, it's very chill here. It's very, you're going to see people a lot, even though it's a big city. Everybody's super friendly and nice. I always joke, you go to the grocery store and, teller always asks you like, oh, how are you? And you actually have a conversation. People actually wave to each other. People ask you how you are and you're like, yeah, my day's going, so it's very nice. Everybody's super friendly. I love it. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's definitely like more of a small town feel, sounds like. I would say that Santa Cruz is similar to that, especially if you get towards the more rural areas like the mountains. I do have 10-minute long conversations with the cashier at the grocery store. But if you're in San Jose, that's not happening.
It is funny, yeah. We're still a big city, so it's so funny, but there is this vibe here. And I think there's a lot of little micro neighborhoods and micro cities, it almost feels like in every neighborhood. So I think that gives it that energy as well.
Okay, that's cool. And you mentioned the traffic, so let's talk about that for a second, because if you're coming from the Bay Area or California, everybody knows that traffic is nuts in California. And in Santa Cruz specifically, on Friday afternoons, if you're traveling on Highway 1, going south through the city, traffic is just nuts. And it adds up very quickly, after 2:30 in the afternoon. So it sounds like there's probably less of that in Portland. Is that true?
I would say so. I think here the joke always is to me, and we've talked about this, is if you are local to Portland, you're like, oh my God, the traffic's horrible, home prices are insane. If you are coming, especially from California, I love my clients coming from California, one, because I'm a Cali girl, but also they're like, oh my God, the traffic is amazing, relative to California. I've spent a ton of time in LA, all these places, it's nothing. The typical day you'll have somewhere else. If you live in an outer suburb, you might deal with 30 to 45 minutes of traffic at rush hour.
Not bad at all. And what has it been kind of the same since COVID, or do you see kind of a little increase in traffic since the pandemic era?
Relative to the pandemic when there was no traffic, it's gone up a lot. But honestly, I think it's kind of stayed the same since pre-pandemic, I would say. Yeah,
That's cool. That's cool. It's like, what are some of the general suburbs of Portland for someone who doesn't know that?
Yeah, so Portland is kind of put into so there's technically 4 quadrants, but there's the river running right through Portland. So that is we're very west side, east side here. It's very helpful to know. Okay. So it's northwest Portland, southwest, northeast, northwest, or whatever, southeast. We're trying to do that in your head. You're like, wait. And so with that, there's kind of the suburbs that live on both sides. On the west side, the most known, biggest suburb we have is Beaverton, which is like right next to Portland. Really cool city. It is getting a lot more. I feel like back in the day, people were like, oh, Beaverton isn't cool. And there's still people that'll say that. And I'm like, have you been over there? Because they're getting all the same restaurants. A lot of the places in Portland, they'll have probably have similar suburbs in your area where it's like they have the same restaurant out there now or new cool restaurants. A lot of really cool different cuisine there too. Korean food is really popular over there. It's amazing. Like I've had some of the best Korean food I've ever had in my life. Over there's some kind of niche areas within if people were interested in that area that I could talk to them about. Hillsboro, which is kind of the further one out from there. If you're interested in new build property, there's tons of land, tons of building that's happening there.
Okay.
On the east side, we have Happy Valley is another one that there's more land available. So if you're interested in owning, more land or also just newer build homes, that's a really good one there. And again, more food and cool stuff is coming in.
That's where if you want to spread out, like that's
exactly
where going. Okay.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there's a few others, but yeah, it's really the cool areas for sure. If you're wanting that more suburban life.
You mentioned new construction. Like, is there a lot of it going on? Obviously you mentioned where it is already, but like Santa Cruz, for example, they're really pushing housing density more than like new construction planned developments.
Right.
So like in Santa Cruz, we do have a couple like high rises going up. And when I say high rises, I mean like, I think it's like 6 or 7 stories. It's not like city. But we see way more people trying to go and get ADU permits more than anything. Yeah. So how does that climate look near you?
So for us, it's both. We do, naturally probably similar to Santa Cruz, if you are a city that's fairly developed already, there's only going to be so much land to use.
Yeah.
So in our case, in the inner city, we are seeing a decent amount of new build happening still. A lot of lots that are being subdivided into new lots. And either houses are getting teared down. I just walked by one the other day in my neighborhood. I was like, there used to be a house there, and it wasn't that bad. But now they're going to be able to build 6 units. Is kind of the buildings you're talking about. Typically, like a 3-story, 6-story building. And then what we do have, what you're talking about too, though, with these infill projects, where it's very highly incentivized in our city now. Before it was such a pain to get an ADU permit or get any type of permitting for that kind of thing, and now they're making it way easier. That way we can add units into properties that already exist, or people are putting, ADUs in their backyards, all things of that nature. In-law suites are huge. I have multiple clients right now looking for that in-law suite as well. So getting people in multifamily, units is also very popular here.
Starter home or even townhomes in Santa Cruz, like 2-3 bedrooms, like it's in the $700,000 range at least. And if you want like a single family home with a little yard, like those average in Santa Cruz to be about 1.2 million. So that sounds like a really different just ball game for affordability. So what is that like for a single family home, and maybe in Portland or maybe in one of these suburbs, like what does that pricing even look like?
Even for that, we're way more affordable. Again, we're the most affordable big city on the West Coast. So for us, while demand is high because of that, I will say we have a lot of people coming from the bigger cities, LA, Bay Area, even Seattle, who are seeing our home prices and going, that looks pretty great to me. Other people it might seem really high, but for local or for people from out of state, it is, very in demand. So we do have our prices still rising. But at the moment, average price point for your standard house is going to be about $600K. So compared, that's typically what that would look like, in my opinion, is I have a buyer consult right after this within that price range, wanting inner city, super walkable. They sent me some houses they wanted to see that were 2 to 3 bedrooms, again, like walking score of 80 plus. So we're talking like really nice areas. Their budget is 600 to 700K. And a lot of those houses were, you know, within the middle of that range. So you can get a really cool house, 2 to 3 bedrooms, single family home with a yard, again, super walkable, for around 650, even lower. I've got clients in really cool scenarios closer to 5.
Wow.
So yeah.
So that definitely seems, and I'm sure you guys get a lot more of a younger demographic probably moving and trying to buy homes too. Probably more so than where I am, it sounds like, just because of that affordability right there.
Right. A lot of people I work with, again, being a specialist with the first timers and having the background of where I'm from, I have a lot of conversations with people who are like, I would love to stay in the Bay Area. I'd love to stay in LA. You know, I'd love to stay in these cities, but I want to own a home. So a lot of people will move, and that, ranges from people in their early 20s to 30s. But I also have people in their like, you know, late 30s, early 40s who had their first kid maybe, or, you know, are just in a situation where they also want to experience home ownership for the first time. They've been doing the grind at the bigger cities, and they see that we still have all the cool stuff here, and they decide, you know, they want their kid to have a yard.
And it definitely is like a lifestyle change for sure. So you kind of give and pull. Now, like, one of the hot topic issues in Santa Cruz, and really one of, aside from just the sheer pricing, like the big impact to affordability as a whole is insurance here.
Yeah.
So like a lot of people looking at buying a home in Santa Cruz, you know, insurance isn't impossible to get, but it does often take a long time to get it. And it is kind of what pushes out transactional timelines and makes things delayed, because you have to go through a certain process to get the insurance. But on average, like most 3-bedroom single-family homes, like those insurance policies out here range around $4,000 a year. And again, that's like $700 a month.
Oh yeah.
So what's it like in Portland? Like, is it hard to get insurance? Is it as expensive?
Really interesting. I think, one topic we could touch on is weather also. I think that's something that just came to my mind. But on just insurance, I think for us, it's pretty seamless. We don't have the same. We've had fires. You know, that's obviously a big reason why it's gotten so hard where you are. At the moment, things really aren't that hard here when it comes to natural disasters. Our only biggest threat we've had is like there's gonna be a big earthquake at some point. It's kind of similar to like the fault there, where
all
it's like
the West Coast.
Exactly, where they're like, but we don't get little, you know, smaller, relatively smaller earthquakes that much at all. It's pretty much like when it happens, it's gonna happen. You know, just be prepared. So in terms of that, realistically, when it comes to real estate, it's not that big of a deal. In terms of insurance, you can get a policy within a few days. Insurance really isn't a huge deal here.
Okay. And about the weather, like, do you guys have snow and stuff like that, or?
So Portland, it's funny because I think when you talk relative to California, people think the weather here is so awful.
Okay.
But then I have clients that come from the Midwest, and they're like, oh my God, this is the most temperate, beautiful weather I've ever dealt with. Because snow-wise, now it's gotten more popular that we will pretty much have a snow period every year. But it's a period of like 2 to 4 days. Usually this year we had a pretty bad one because everybody got the crazy ice storm, you know, the Arctic freeze that happened. So it was closer, I think, to 5, 6, 7 days. And our city isn't prepared for snow because we don't deal with it as much.
Well, so you don't have like plows or anything?
No, we don't have plows. We're actually starting to talk more about it because we get them every year now. But because it's such a short period of time, it's honestly, this year was a little tougher, but typically it's kind of fun, honestly. It's like 3 days. Typically it snows. Everybody goes to bars, hangs out, like nobody's working. So it's kind of fun.
So it's not that like stress of it. Like I feel like if you're used to the snow, like you still gotta go to work. So it sounds like Portland's a little more lax with that. So you can actually enjoy the fun of snow.
It's snow day vibes for sure. And then rain, cloudiness is what people worry the most about. I think for Portland, it's, I mean, I obviously know people deal with it, have a hard time dealing with it. I have that in past years. I've kind of built, you know, I get out for walks. I do all these things that kind of help me now really deal with it. And it honestly isn't that big of a deal. I think you do get more used to it. And then we have the most amazing summers. Our spring, summer, and fall are all beautiful. Especially our summers.
Humid?
No humidity really at all, which is great. And yeah, our summers, it gets hot as heck. You're around all of the rivers. It's freaking beautiful. And then yeah, you just have this winter, and then annoyingly a little bit into the spring it rains for a while. But other than that, you kind of just, yeah, it's cuddle season. So
cuddle season, I love it. Yeah, and then the flowers bloom, and then it's pretty, right? Is that
the green? That's so true. Thank you. That's such a good point, because whenever I go to other places, I'm like, oh yeah, wow, we live in this like green, magnificent, beautiful. Everything is covered in moss, and we have massive trees. Like, it's beautiful. Yeah, air is fresh. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I mean, it's funny how dry everything is here, and like when it when it rains, it doesn't just like pitter patter, pretty rain. It's just like hell breaks loose. This is a storm, atmospheric river. Like, y'all gonna get inches of rain in one sitting. Have fun. Like, that is the rain in Central California, at least. So it's funny to see. I mean, not funny, but like it's interesting to see just the sheer panic at any drop of rain here. So it's interesting to hear about that. It just what was it, like 13 hours north of if you drove from here to there, right?
It is. That's an interesting aspect of the psychology of it, I think. Yeah, because I, growing up in the Bay, it was the same thing where it was like, oh my God, rain, it stops your day. Here, I've actually read once that we get the same amount of rain here in the Bay Area. It's just that ours trickles for a long time, whereas the Bay, like we're talking about, it just dumps. Yeah. So yes, we have days where it dumps, it's crazy, but today it's raining. Right now I'm looking outside my window, it's not raining at all. It's just like a slight drizzle. And, you know, so it's just, you go on with your day, you wear a raincoat. I tell people, get a good raincoat, get a good puffer jacket, that's waterproof. Go on with your day. Yeah, yeah.
I love it. Well, there you have it. Lily, thank you for teaming up with me, and hopefully we're helping future homeowners get a good sense of what to expect living either in Portland or how that may compare to Santa Cruz. And of course, if you actually watch this whole thing and you are interested in either of these areas, bug us, bug us, bug us. We are here to help you, and we can make your dreams actually a reality.
Yeah, no, I agree. If you have any questions about living in Portland, again, one of my favorite people to work with is a relocation home buyer. So I would love to chat with you, tell you about all the really cool neighborhoods and spots within those neighborhoods to check out, as the best way to know a neighborhood is to actually live it and experience it. And yeah, we'd love to have you here in Portland.
Feel free to comment any questions you may have, or if you have another area that you want us to teach you about. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.